One of the biggest challenges, coming off a state championship last year in South Jersey Group 5 is for a lot of the veterans to come back into camp and show the same level of energy and the same level of enthusiasm. How's that been going so far?
Well, honestly, right now they're in the dog days of, summer and camp, and we've hit a wall a little bit, and you saw that today out there. It wasn't one of our better performances, but we've been very solid, all preseason so far. The kids have really been doing everything we've asked of them, and then, there are going to be days and moments where a team says, they're struggling in practice and they're trying to survive, and that was really the message today is, it's not about survival, it's about getting better, and that was just the message.
How great is it to, see players like Mike Husney, Bryce Watts, Darian Carrington, and guys that you've had that were playing up here when they were freshmen when you first took over the program, and now here they are as seniors. What's it been like just seeing their growth and their development over the past 3 years?
Well, it's a lot like a proud father in that, you basically had them right out of middle school and they started for you, probably when they shouldn't have been, because in A-South that's a recipe for disaster usually. But, they battled that year and they worked at their craft, and here they are going into their senior year where a lot of them are the best players at their position or among the best players at the position in the shore and the state. And, we're going to reap the rewards of that, hopefully this year, and we did certainly last year. But it's also bittersweet. It's bittersweet because, you lose guys that you've really, paid so much into, and you've been with, and you've been in so many battles along the way, and you hate to see them go, but you're also proud at that moment as well. So this is a year where, it's special for me and the staff, being alongside all these guys that have been with us for so long. They happen to be also exceptionally talented. But, we want to make sure that we kind of flip over every stone and do all the things we need to do as a staff to put us in position to be successful, because we care so deeply for all of the boys, but especially the senior class. They're special.
Sure. How big is it to have almost your entire offense back at the skill positions? I mentioned Mike and Bryce and Darian. You have 3 starters back on the offensive line as well. This was one of the best offenses in the Shore last year. What can they do now to be even more effective?
Well, for us, honestly, for us to be effective, it's just about us, executing in every area, all phases. On offense, we want to put talented guys at every position where they could be pressure points. When you run the spread or some version of it, ours is a power spread. Every guy basically has to be a talented guy that can do a job to put pressure on the opposing defense. So they have to match up, and it really dictates, in terms of, what they can do in the front and numbers and then coverage. And then it's just about us going out and executing, man for man and as a group. And that's really our focus. It's always been our focus. We don't think about numbers per se. We think about, moving the ball 3 downs at a time to get a first down, not turning the ball over, and when we get in the red zone, have a high, percentage rate of putting the ball in the end zone or coming away with points at the very least. So that's our approach offensively. And then defensively, we've run our 3-4. This is my almost going into the second decade here of coaching here at Toms River North, and our approach is always to be very physical at the line of scrimmage, be very disciplined, very gap conscious, and really play a 2-deep look and force the offense into mistakes and then capitalize on that when we can.
I just spent some time talking about the offense, but defensively, I think you guys have even been a little underrated. Look at just the championship game last year as an example. You held a very good Williamstown team to just 7 points. Now, you graduate some guys on that side of the ball, but who do you expect to step up out of some of the newcomers that are filling into positions now?
Well, we're still kind of determined at, to be honest with you. When you get in a scrimmage season, it's one thing where we're going, and because we're too deep, 2-platoon football team, we get a chance to see ones versus ones. You saw that a little bit there when we were going, in our skeleton practice and we go into our inside drill, etc. But you really don't know how the young guys are going to step up till they're really thrown into the front lines in the fire, and you see them in the scrimmage season. And really, even sometimes in the scrimmage season, it's not as productive if it's not a game scrimmage type situation, and you got to really see early part of the year, what you have. But we got a few guys that are fighting for positions. Like I said, this is a veteran football team, so there's really not a whole lot of underclassmen that are going to find their way onto the field permanently. But there will be moments in time during the season where our young guys will be as good as our depth will take us. Because last year, the one thing, we overcame a tremendous amount of injuries at certain points up to key players that kind of went unnoticed because our young guys stepped up and played well, really, really well. Will that happen again? You don't know, but you do know that there will be a rate of attrition, a certain rate of attrition. You're going to lose a player or two, whether it's a game or a full season. Hopefully not, but if it happens, what does that next player do when they step up into that position? So that's really the unknown, and you really don't worry yourself so much about that as a coach. What you try to do is prep each player to be able to do the job and understand that they have to do that job if the time arises. And the hardest part with young guys is that are talented, and we have a bunch, is they have to be patient if they're not starting. They've a lot of the young guys that play, they're not used to doing anything but starting and making plays wherever that position may be. And when you come into a program like we have right now, where our veteran guys are our best players, and a veteran football team that's won before, it's going to be tough to find that time. But when they do find that time, they got to make plays and impress the coaching staff and earn the trust of their teammates in that spot and step up.
I think that's one of the advantages you guys have of being a Group 5 school is you can have so much talent on the roster, but you have such a large amount of kids that they don't have to play right away versus a Group 1 or a Group 2 school.
Well, it's been like that the past few seasons. It's not always been that way. My first year here was in 06, 07, even 2008. I mean, our numbers were tremendous, and then they dropped off significantly, even though we were still winning a lot of football games from about 09 to maybe 11.
Sure.
Our numbers weren't as good, but we were still being successful. And then, our numbers have now crept back up again, and, the success has gone with it. But I don't think it's a necessity to have high numbers. What you want is the percentage of players that you have. You want them to be really good football players. And I think right now, the last 3 seasons, going back to 2014 even, the percentage of our players that are in the program, they're good football players. They're hard workers, and they're very talented, and they're willing to be coached. And I think right now that's why we're having success.
Now, you graduated in a 1,000-yard rusher in Asante Moore, but you have Parker Day, who comes back over for his senior year. He played a little bit for you as a sophomore and was successful. How big is it to get him back?
I think it's very big. I mean, he's a talented guy, and he's very successful. He was great for us as a sophomore, and I've been able to watch a little bit of film since he's come back over here. It was highlight film from Manasquan, and he was outstanding. And they play a difficult schedule, so we're really impressed with him. He's become a 3-down back. He's a guy, he can run the football. He's a little bigger and thicker than he was 2 years ago. Obviously, as a sophomore, still maintained that speed he has, which he's always been known for. But what's impressed me is he can block, but he's really catching the football so well, and that's really a necessity in the spread. Your running back gets displaced a lot, where you take him out of the backfield,
Sure.
You motion him out, or you line him up in a slot position, and he's been able to make plays down the field against our varsity defense, and that's been an impressive addition to what he's been able to do as far as his repertoire as a running back.
I think one of the biggest differences, last year you guys were coming off an 8-win season, competing for a state championship. You guys were more the team that was on the hunt, where this year, after winning, you guys are going to be more of the hunting. Every team on a very difficult A-South schedule is going to come in here looking to take your head off. You guys open up on September 9th against Southern Regional. They've had a couple tough years, but one thing about Coach Donahue and that program is they're never down for long, and they always come in to play tough football.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you play in A-South, every game's a war. It's a battle. It's really a black and blue division. It's been like that forever, really, as long as we've been coaching and playing in this division. So each week is a different set of challenges, and we really don't think about being the hunted or the hunter or anything like that. I mean, it's never been our approach here as long as I've been here. It's not our approach now that I'm the head coach. We go out, try to work hard in practice, get better every day if we can, and just try to go out and execute. And we want to be physical everywhere. Toms River North, even before I ever got here, when I was coaching against them, they are physical. I mean, that was the one thing you knew when you played a North Mariner team.
Sure.
It was going to be a battle. Whether you won or lost, you were going to come out a little banged up, a little bruised up. And our football team, has been built upon that physicality along both lines of scrimmages, and that's really what we challenge our kids to be every year. And that starts in the weight room as soon as the last game is played. And we go about our business in the off season, pushing some iron and making sure we develop that strength so that we can go out and have the confidence to be physical. But yeah, when you talk about Southern Regional, you draw the teams that you're going to draw, based on the schedule that they give you as a new 2-year schedule. But I have the utmost respect for Coach Donahue and the Southern Regional Football Program, and the things he's able to have accomplished there is really something that's an amazing thing. And He's been one of the best coaches in all of South Jersey and New Jersey for a very, very long period of time, and they will be a significant challenge for us. Got a chance to see him yesterday for the first time, so we're not really thinking about any one team. We're thinking about ourselves, but Southern Regional will be a very difficult opener for us for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the physicality of this team. I wanted to bring that up. Just watching the drills here today, it seemed like there was a big emphasis on red zone work and working at the goal line. Would you say that's an element? Obviously you had it last year. You said you've had it for the years here. But would you say just becoming more physical of a team, along with what you can do in the spread offense? Would you say that that's something that you can improve on this year and use as something to take the next step on both sides of the ball?
Well, I think for us, it's just about being consistent in general. Last year, early part of the year, we weren't very consistent. We were physical. We're physical now. We've always been physical. But execution sometimes, in key moments. And that's why really as a coaching staff, and every staff does it, but we try to, today was a double session, so what we do at our second session basically is create a lot of scenarios and themed periods about, you're coming out of your own end, or you're in the red zone, et cetera, and you do a time sequence, or you're down 3 points, or you're down 6 points, whatever it may be. And I let our coaching staff kind of create that between the offensive and defensive coordinators, Coach Oz and our offense coordinator, Coach Malik, does a significant and really a tremendous job, in terms of the development of practice, and then I'll approve what we do. And so, that's what you saw today. But if you were with us in the morning, we did a little more physical and some more thumping in a different period that we didn't cover in the afternoon.
Yeah, now lastly, just speaking of, the overall practices for this team and the overall, development as we get ready for the season, how, I guess as a coach, how much of a benefit can it be to know that, when you guys are practicing, whether it's, a full 11 on 11 or whatever drill you're doing, you have so much talent throughout this roster. I asked your quarterback, Mike Husney, this question as well. Having talent around the roster, how much does it make it, I guess, easier to evaluate talent because that guys are being pushed to their max. Guys have to put in their best effort, because the guy they're going up against on the other side of the line is also going to be a starter and a quality starter at that. And just knowing that all throughout the field here you have guys competing at a high level that can push each other to be where you want to be.
I think so, yeah, because if you're not bringing your A game in practice, you're not going to look very good. And you saw that today. The defense came out and dominated our offense there in that 7-on-7 period. And it's just a matter of tomorrow the offense has to understand that they're going to have to bring it a little better, step their game up, and meet the challenge of the defense. And the defense is going to have to go back to consistency, maintain that level of play. I think the one advantage, and you kind of mentioned it before, was when you are a bigger school, you get a chance to do more ones versus ones work. You just have to be careful about limiting that amount because you don't want to have injuries before you ever scrimmage, and that's because it's football, there's going to be injuries, but you, as a coaching staff, you want to kind of control the way you practice so that, yes, you see ones versus ones, yes, you have that kind of competition, but you also don't want to do it to the point where in terms of scripted plays where you open yourself up to maybe a significant injury and then you lose a really good player, and then that's counterproductive.
All right, Coach, thank you.
Thanks.